Yes, yes. Oh, you know what that sound means? It's time for In the Paddock F1, Greeny and the Cheese. This is another In the News special episode.
Mm.
Since we got some goodies in F1 this week. And as always, we are caffeinated and we are medicated. Greeny, good evening, sir.
Good evening, cheese. I am just back from Barcelona in Spain, so my time clock is still catching up and adjusting. I try to do the 24-hour, like staying up for 24 hours, but yeah, that didn't work out so well. Struggling here. I got some work to do tomorrow, and I got about another, 15 out of the next 17 days. I'll be hitting the 8 to 10 hour grind, so I have no idea how I'm going to do that. But I'm here tonight. We're going to talk a little about Madrid, which I just got back from as well. I had some conversations with some local guides there and some people. We're going to have that up on Instagram later today, maybe tomorrow. With that interview with my man Florentino Sanchez on the streets of Madrid. Great tour guide, and he had a lot to say about the economics of the Madrid Barcelona situation, tourism, all the money that goes along with it. I got to kind of drive through the proposed track. I took a ride around that. Very interesting to actually see it, up close and kind of see how it's going to run. Then went to Barcelona, had some conversations there, and yeah, it was a good time. Just landed back, and let's start there. Let's start with the fact that there's 2 more years left for Barcelona or the Catalonian Grand Prix. Do not call it the Spanish Grand Prix up there. They will not appreciate that. I did not see too many Spanish flags in Barcelona. I did see a lot of Catalonian flags for sure. So, yeah, their Spanish Grand Prix is back home in Spain in a couple of years. We got a street race in Madrid. I'll give you my perspective from the word on the streets, but geez, what is the word from the Formula One community as far as moving this race to Madrid? 40 years, it'll be 40-year absence from Madrid, and we're going back to a street race, a place that had a street race starting in 1913, one of the oldest street races, if not the oldest organized street race in the world. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think a lot of people are happy, to be honest. Another street race. Drivers don't like them. Fans are getting sick of them, I think, because there's just so many of them. Having a few per season, it's fine. Gives you a little something different, but we just keep adding street race after street race after street race, and it's getting a little too much, in my humble opinion. I mean, it's kind of taken the luster off of the street race. Drivers don't like it. I mean, most of the drivers have come out and said that quite bluntly. So maybe F1 should start listening to the drivers a little bit that actually put on the show. And, instead of, just doing whatever the heck we want because it's more cash money. But I understand it's more cash money, so that's what you're going to do. But it's taken away a lot of the race because the street race is it's not the same as a race on a proper race course. It's just not the same.
How many, if those of you who follow the American football and then the National Football League, how many football players want to play on Thursday nights? Right? Same
None.
thing. None
None.
is the answer outside of those
None.
special games and Thanksgiving that we have here in the States.
All right.
But nobody wants to play, but they're going to have them, and they keep expanding them. NFL just expanded to 5 international games. They're going to go to 8 international games in 2 years, and a full 16 slate within the next 4 to 5 years of international games. So really, really, unfortunately or fortunately, these guys are compensated at a level where it's kind of just you do what we tell you to do based on your compensation level.
Basically.
And
Basically.
and that's what it is, and that's what it is, and like it or leave it. Just about no driver can really transcend what Formula One has as a whole. as an economic stranglehold. Any driver can leave off the grid, and they will not lose more than 2 to 4%, which is a huge number, but they won't lose anywhere more than a couple points of percentage for any driver, like a Lewis Hamilton deciding to retire or Max Verstappen deciding to retire or something like that. Something crazy. At least with that, they're not going to lose money. They're not going to lose money. The show will go on where whoever's driving those vehicles, and as long as Ferrari's involved and Mercedes is involved and McLaren's involved and Red Bull's involved, you're going to get eyes and you're going to get those numbers, and it's going to not waver within 1 to 2%, regardless of who's driving. With that being said, 2 factors. Let's start in Madrid, where I started, where I had some conversations with some folks in the know, and as well as just reading the basic information that's out there. They're claiming it's going to bring €500 million per race and 10,000 jobs per year to the Madrid economy. Kind of going through the track, you kind of see why they designed it that way.
It's an interesting layout. It's an interesting layout, I'll say that.
But as far as the city is concerned, it's going to be based around the train station. They're going to have everyone use the train station to get it in and out of Madrid. So that's kind of the way they economically designed it. It's southern Madrid as opposed to more central Madrid, which probably you couldn't be able to do that now anyway, just based on the fact there was 1.3 million people living in Madrid last time they had a street race there, and now there is 3.6 million people living there, so it's almost tripled in size, I do believe, as far as the population is concerned over 40 years. So you have a very different population base, and they're excited about it. They're excited at the prospect. I was there the day it was announced, so obviously there's not really much time to think about, as far as the people are concerned, the nitty gritty of it. But on the surface, they're very excited to get the race back. On the other hand, I went to Barcelona, and the people in Barcelona really didn't care. Barcelona's about half the size as far as population is concerned, but they don't need the jobs, right? You have double the population in Madrid, and they need the jobs more. Unemployment's around 11%, which is fairly high. Outside of Greece, it's one of the fairly higher unemployment, especially in Madrid, which is where all the jobs are. And Madrid probably needs to race more, and a lot of the Spanish government agrees with that as far as economics are concerned. So I think it was an economic decision. Ultimately, I think it's kind of a fresh, as far as the F1 calendar is taking Barcelona off and putting Madrid on. I think for all those reasons, that's why they're doing it. And the people at Barcelona aren't as concerned about losing it, because they get the massive tourism. They actually get too much tourism in Barcelona, more than they can really handle. I was there in the lowest part of tourism season, and it was packed. So I can only imagine. I've never been there. It was my first time there, so I can only imagine what it's like during the high season. And then you throw a Formula One race in there, and they just don't need it as far as the city's concerned. So it's going to piss a lot of people off. It's going to piss a lot of Formula One fans off, as well as the drivers, but it's the way it's going to be. It's the way it's going to be. So welcome back to Madrid.
Well, if you lose the fans, guess what? Then you don't have a sport. So maybe you should think about that, because the fans stop coming. If the fans stop coming, the sponsors ain't going to be there. The sponsors aren't going to give you the money for it, and you're going to go bust.
You're out of your mind. You've lost your marbles. You think it's going to go bust because they moved it from Barcelona to Madrid. There's
the overall, but I keep continually adding street races. It's not what the fans want to see.
Not in the short term. They're not going to lose in the short term. Maybe the 5-year, 10-year plan, but they can always pivot. I don't think they're going to lose in the short term. And if they see themselves losing more than 1 to 2%, they make an adjustment. They got plenty of money. They got plenty of money to make a mistake as well. And it might not be a mistake. But they have enough money and enough of a fan base to take a risk. Absolutely. So I think it's absurd to think that they're even concerned about losing.
No, I'm not saying that they're going to go bankrupt in the next couple of years or something. But over time, if you keep doing things that fans don't want to see, they're not going to show up. Races are going to go out of business. That's why some of the races have gone off the calendar the last number of years, because people weren't showing up.
Yeah, and they adjust. They'll adjust.
So if you keep doing street races, the fans don't want to see it. The fans are tired. There's enough street races. Really, there should only be one street race on the calendar, to be honest. Monaco. Plain and simple. Everything else should really be at a proper racetrack. That's what the drivers want.
I'm not arguing against that. I mean, the street races are tough because the cars are more sensitive, and you saw last year in Vegas with the exploding sewer caps and whatever the heck's going on. It's dangerous. It's not a controlled area.
The tires, they had trouble getting the tires warmed up and everything else. I mean, it's
not controlled. It's not a controlled service. You need a controlled service.
Yeah.
You're racing you wouldn't just launch a rocket to the moon in like the middle of a field in Iowa because it looks cool, right? I guess that's the best comparison I can come up with at the top of my head. I don't know if you got a better comparison. It's dangerous, right? It's not the best way to do it. It's not the appropriate way to do it. But like I've said many times, if Formula One can figure out a way where they can race like 10 laps backwards for some crazy like extra points, they do it. They do it.
Yeah.
Backwards race. I mean, they do it if they think it's going to make a couple extra bucks, or bring any new eyes to the sport. But I digress. We'll see what happens. We have a couple years left, but in a couple years, we're going to have a couple of the same drivers in some of those teams because both this week, Charles LeClerc and Lando Norris signed long-term deals. Looks like Leclerc's going to take him through 2029 at least, and Lando Norris through 2026 at least. Seems like a no-brainer to me for both these guys with Ferrari and McLaren. But geez, what do you think about these two young bucks getting long-term deals?
Well, the teams had to do it. That's just the bottom line. They needed to keep your younger drivers and build with them. I mean, McLaren definitely had to do that with Norris. I mean, they got a 2-year deal, so we'll see what happens after that. Really, Leclerc's deal, I think, is, as you said, is 5, but I think after 3 years or something like that, he can opt out depending on Ferrari's performances. If they're not, challenging for the championship, he can get out of there. So, but I mean, they had to lock him up. They had to lock up somebody. I mean, Ferrari's got to make another decision on what they're going to do with the Carlos Sainz seat. Are they going to continue with Carlos Sainz or, go after, say, an Alex Albon or something that, maybe even go completely out of the ordinary, which Ferrari never does, and go get a rookie like say a Felipe Drogovic, or they added, I can't remember the young British driver's name to be their reserve driver coming up this season. Maybe, and Ferrari's never done that. They've never gone after and put a rookie in a seat. Maybe it's time to think outside of the box in Maranello, since things just haven't been panning out as been foreseen. But I think a lot of that has to really go around with the car, because the car's been, pretty much trash for Ferrari standards. But Ferrari and McLaren, they both had to do it. Plain and simple. They have to keep these drivers. Otherwise, your competition's going to, your Mercedes and Red Bull are possibly going to go poaching. Because Lewis Hamilton ain't going to be, in that Mercedes seat for probably maybe another couple of years. Max Verstappen's getting more and more pissed off at Formula One in general. And it's even rumored that he might be, leaving the sport in the next, handful possibly of seasons at Max. He doesn't want to do this doesn't want to do it for a long term. He's got other things he wants to do. He's already won 3 drivers' titles, so records don't really mean squat to Max really in general. I mean, he could care less if he ended up having the most world titles of all time or anything. It's not, things like that aren't things that Max really makes him tick. He just wants to beat everybody. That's what makes him tick. Being at the front. So, I mean, Ferrari and McLaren both, they had to. It was a must.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree. They're 2 extremely marketable, extremely personable guys.
And they're young.
They're young. They're at the top of their sport. They're marketable. And they're really good at what they do. hopefully for Ferrari's sake and for your heart's sake, you show up this year a little harder than you had in the last couple of years. There's some big head shaking going on. We got a car reveal coming up in a couple weeks here, and all the cars getting revealed between now and February 15th, leading up to the 21st, where we have our preseason testing, and of course March 2nd we kick off a new season. So we got a lot coming up here in the next month. And with that new season, sir, there's a new name for a team.
Oh,
I know
God.
you vomited when you heard this. I laughed.
Made me sick. It's the saddest racing team name in the history of racing. Like, I can't think of anything that's worse than Visa Cash App RB. That is just, I mean, it just, it's absolutely ludicrous. It's ludicrous. It is the most ludicrous, ridiculous, pathetic name I've ever heard of. Ever. For a sports team, racing team, I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke. It really is. It's a joke. It just sounds ridiculous. I mean, it made you laugh as soon as I said it. Visa Cash App RB. Like, what the hell is that?
VCAP. Call him VCAP. But for the stink, you can call him V-crap.
That is true, but it's just an awful, awful name. I mean,
I'm sure we'll come up with some kind of nickname very quickly.
Somebody got paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to come up with that. I mean, come on. You can't dip yourself in that imaginary box a little bit deeper. Would you spend 5 minutes on that one? That's a joke.
You got the Visa Cash App, and you got Stake F1. You think Stake F1, a gambling site's any better?
I mean, that sounds better than Visa Cash App RB.
Sounds better. Stake F1. That's so shady, though. The whole situation's shady. Yeah, I guess, AlphaTauri to Visa Cash App. We won't be calling it that. It'll be V-crap. That's what it'll be.
It might not be V-crap since they're so closely teamed up with Red Bull now. I mean, even Zach Brown from McLaren said, I think, F1's got to really take a serious look at this about having a team that's working so closely together, owned by the same owner. I mean, it's not something that's, gone on in F1 history for a long time. And now that they're moving so many other facilities right there in Milton Keynes too, like across, right there with Red Bull itself. I mean, before they were, I think it was basically like Torino, Italy. So, far away that they would have their own thing going on when it was, going back to the, Toro Rosso days and things like that. I mean, it was basically run, they had a Red Bull sponsor, but it was run by its own kind of organization. But now that they're bringing everything so closely together, I mean, that's just,
and listen,
it just don't sound right that, and then they're going to be possibly running the Red Bull chassis from this past season. Like, I thought you're supposed to develop your own car here on your own.
Give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they have a new engineer that's doing some great things, and his name is Visa Cash.
Yeah, his name is Adrian Newey.
Well, that guy's literally at 18
who might not be that much involved here coming up soon with the Red Bull F1 team in general because of the cost cap thing. I mean, that came out that he might have to stop working on the F1 car.
Well, I'm sure his family thinks of him as a Visa Cash App, so. That man prints money, son.
Well, when you build a race car like that, you're damn right he does.
Adrian knew he prints money, so it's all. Listen, it all makes sense. Listen, we will be back in like 2 weeks. maybe sooner, maybe next weekend if we got any news to report, but most likely, yeah, 2 weeks from now. Probably our first preview of the season. After we have these reveals and these in 3 weeks, we're gonna have preseason testing. So we may not see you guys for like 3 weeks, but hang around. We will be back. We got a season coming up. In 5 weeks from today, believe it or not, it feels like we just ended yesterday, and now we're starting a season again. So very, very exciting. We'll get to all that. We'll get to more. Stick around. Thank you all for making January 2024 already the biggest month we've ever had. Unbelievable having an off month, off season, with so many listeners, so many downloads. It's really been overwhelming the last couple months here. So thank you all for making this happen. This show would not happen without you all over the world listening. Really unbelievable. We are humbled by every listener and every download we get. We always have been. But when those numbers start to double and triple each week here, makes us feel like I guess we're doing a somewhat of a good job here. So thank you all for, I guess so. But hit us up, email us in the paddockusa@gmail.com. We're going to start to get stuff up on Instagram and start that getting ramped up. We're going to try to be posting, try to hit that up and try to be posting 3, 4, 5 times a week. Getting some information, some stuff out there, and some show clips and things like that, trying to spread the word. And of course, tell your friends, because we can't do this without you guys. We ask for no money. All we do is ask for you guys to listen, enjoy, and hit us back up and join the show. We have no Patreon. We have no sponsors. We have no anything. We do this all for you guys. So if you guys can help us out, tell your friends and jump on board.
Spread the word.
Because that would be very.
We're doing this. We're doing this the old school way. We're just building.
We build this.
Building the fan base, and the fan base starts with you guys.
Absolutely. So thank you all, and we'll see you in 2 to 3 weeks with another spectacular show. Cheese, say what you got to say, homie.
Oh, as always, my friends, thank you for listening. Stay medicated.
Peace.